Welcome back everyone to Gotcha Interact. Today we're going to be talking about Dahlia, a brand new character that's going to be coming out alongside of another character we've already talked about, which was Skirk. Now looking at him, he is going to be a Hydro character, but following with a sword. Now with this, he's going to be a 4-star character. We're not sure on what side of the banner he's going to be. Speculated he'll be with Skirk, but that's for future reference. So let's go ahead and jump right into his kit, talk about him in a pre-release analysis, really looking at his kit, understanding what it does, and then really talking about what are the possibilities for him in the upcoming characters and meta and where he could possibly fit in different teams. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into his kit. With his Ascension, he's going to go into HP percent, which is actually going to be pretty viable for him, and we'll talk about why in just a second. Using his skill, it is called Immersive Ordnance. His normal attack doesn't have that much to talk about. You're going to basically summon the Mist Rain Mystery in different ways depending on if you tap or hold it. The tap version, after a short prayer, you will summon the Mist Rain Mystery in front of you, and the hold version, you will engage in continuous prayer, and when done, summons forth a Mist Rain Mystery in a designated position. Very similar to what you would do with Alhaitham, any other character that's going to hold the skill, like catching or something. If you hold the skill, you can basically place it wherever you want. Looking at Mist Rain Mystery, it states that when opponents or nearby party members touch the Mist Rain Mystery, different effects will occur depending on the one who touches it, whether it's opponents or nearby party members. If an opponent touches the mystery, it will explode and deal AoE hydro damage to nearby opponents. If a nearby party member touches it, it will bounce the one who touches it high into the air, and only one mystery summoned by Dahlia can be on the field at one time. The multipliers at the bottom are seeing at Crowned aren't really too crazy, especially because they're based off attack percent. And with the kit mainly really focusing into HP percent, it definitely does show a little bit to be desired in terms of damage, but the skill cooldown is at 9 seconds, so this could just be some extra application to hit on enemies, or it could be for maybe just some exploration type usage to get thrown characters up into the air, possibly even some plunge kind of without the Shan Yun teams. But without looking at the skill any further, let's go ahead and look at the burst. Rift, what do we see there?
So looking at his burst, it states that he's going to appeal to the divine with earnestness and song, dealing AoE hydro damage to nearby opponents and granting his party members Favonian favor, summoning a shield of sacred favor. Now this shield of sacred favor's damage absorption is based on Dahlia's max HP, and it's going to absorb hydro damage with 250% effectiveness. So basically this is our first proper hydro shielder, and yes, I'm not going to consider things like C2 Siege Queen, that's different. That's a constellated limited 5-star character, and Candace doesn't really count either. That's a hold skill. It just works differently. This is our first proper shielder. This is our first proper hydro shielder that we have in a kit, so that's really cool to see here. Now, going back to the Favonian favor, does that mean? What does that do? So while this effect is active, one Benison stack may be consumed to summon a new shield of sacred favor when an existing shield expires or is broken via damage. Now, this kind of reminds me a little bit of someone like Baiju, where his shield will go away or it can be broken, but then it just comes back. Toma kind of has this too built into his kit, where the shield can be broken or it gets refreshed throughout its duration in his burst. So it kind of reminds me of those characters. We see that here in Dahlia, which I do like because having that shield guaranteed to come back is going to be a good thing, and not just a static one-time shield that can get completely obliterated by maybe some kind of one really big hit by an enemy or something like that. Looking more into this though, Dahlia can obtain Benison through all of these following methods. The first method is he's going to obtain one Benison stack when his own active party member hits opponents 4 times with normal attacks while affected by the Favonian favor. Another way you can get these stacks are after triggering the effect of his passive talent, which we will look at here in a second, coming from his passive talent called the Wind's Gentle Grace. Dahlia can gain a maximum of 5 Benison stacks per Favonian favor duration. In other words, 5 Benison stacks per burst usage, if you want to think of it that way. And looking at the multipliers on this, once again, the skill damage for the initial AoE hydro damage of the burst looks really good, but kind of similar to the skill. It's not like it's scaling on HP, which is what you want to build for the shield, which you can see right under that as well. The shield scales on his max HP. So that's, in a nutshell, what you want to build your Dahlia on, is just full HP kind of shield bot build. And just once again, why the skill damage for both the skill and burst are really not something you're even looking for or looking at, because that's just kind of attack scaling.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting base kit so far, but looking at the passives that we have, the first passive is the Wind's Gentle Grace, like you stated before Rift, helping with that burst. Now it states that when characters affected by the Favonian favor effect of the elemental burst trigger Frozen, they will then grant Dahlia 2 Benison stacks, and this effect can trigger once every 8 seconds. So once again, you're still helping yourself out by getting at least probably, you do have an 8-second duration. So if you're triggering it pretty instantaneously, you can maybe get it off twice to give him multiple stacks during the Favonian favored duration. But I do think that even still, at the end of the day, you're still getting that nice kind of just extra help to make sure that his shield is always staying up no matter what, getting those extra stacks. At the end of the day, though, it's kind of interesting to see why and how these characters now during this upcoming patch are focusing so much on the Frozen idea. So, not to say that this can't work with other teams that aren't only solely focused on Frozen. Technically, if there's a Cryo unit in there and a Hydro unit, you could still technically trigger it. But definitely those Frozen or Freeze teams are going to obviously be the ones that are going to get the most out of this. But there is another passive talent basically that states that he's going to give an attack speed based off of his max HP, and for every 1000 max HP, he's going to get an increase up to that, get a max increase at C0 at 15%, which will also take effect whenever your active party member is affected by the Favonian favor effect, which is once again through the burst. So, base kit, Rift, what are your thoughts about him as a character?
Well, there's really not a lot happening with Dahlia's kit. He really is a straightforward character, and we do see that all you're getting really at the end of the day with Dahlia is a Hydro Shield and attack speed. And honestly, that's pretty much it. Case closed. That's the end of the video. Thank you, like, and subscribe. Like, that's all he does, which can be interesting. So you kind of see that his niche is attack speed. And some people will be like, well, what about Mika? And I feel like Mika's niche, he's definitely placed into physical support. And you can obviously see that with his C6, giving a lot more physical crit damage and just physical damage bonus in general. So that's kind of his niche, where I feel like Dahlia, especially at C6, actually kind of trumps Mika in terms of specifically only attack speed. Because with the C6, which we're not going to really dive all the way into, if you have C6 Dahlia, you can give him a total of 25% attack speed, which does outdo Mika. I think Mika's maximum is somewhere around 16, maybe 18% if you have his skill crowned or something like that. And that's good, but Dahlia's niche, if you will, is definitely going to be looking at attack speed. The thing is with Genshin, though, is that attack speed doesn't seem to usually do as much as it feels like it should do, especially just in comparison with just other games. Like, usually attack speed in other games goes a lot further, but for some reason when it comes to Genshin, it doesn't seem like it's actually pulling a lot of weight. And it does pull a little bit of weight, just not as much as, once again, it should feel like, if you get what I'm saying there. But the Hydro Shield definitely is interesting. Being the first proper Hydro Shielder, that can be very fun. But, you know, there's other characters I think of that just are just better value kind of characters, like Lan Yan. She can technically get that Hydro Shield if she swirls with Hydro. And just because she is a Catalyst user, she can put Thrilling Tales on. She can put any other good Catalyst, support Catalyst on. That can just be interesting. I think there's just more interesting things you can do with Lan Yan, and that's the point. And being an Animo character can also use Viridescent. You know, there's just so many pros that she has, whereas Dahlia, it's kind of hard to, you know, it's hard to know where to place him. A lot of people, even now as we speak, are still kind of figuring out just how good he can be with Skirk, and if it's even worth it, even at the C6 investment, because at the end of the day, there's just things like Yelan, heck, even the 4-star like Xingqiu, and just other things you could do where, yes, the attack speed increase is nice for Skirk, but you could just use a different character. So that's kind of my overall thoughts on him right now.
Yeah, I mean, in a very basic sense, that's basically it. I mean, the attack speed is going to be the biggest thing, but like you said, it's not really that fantastic. Thankfully, the C6 does have like you said, it does give that extra 10%. At the same time, it does have a revive as well thrown with it. The C2 adds some extra shield strength. The C4 is gaining a little bit longer of a duration, so instead of having a 3-second burst uptime, like waiting 3 seconds until you can use the burst again, now it's 100% uptime, so you have some time to actually instantaneously just use the burst as soon as it's ready, and that original Favonian favor is done. So technically there are some good usages and some extra energy help as well in the C1, so there's some good cons, but nothing that really stands out as an exceptionally good character. I think that there's going to be a lot of fun. Like you said, there are other characters, especially if we're talking about this freeze idea with these other future characters. Now, everybody is going to be kind of keeping their eye on Skirk. And Skirk definitely does focus, as we talked about in our last video, a lot on that normal attack. And so the normal attacks are definitely going to help a lot more if you're putting more of those out. The more damage you can be doing, very good. Also, keep in mind, he's a Hydro character, so he's still keeping that idea that Skirk and Escoffier like, which is all Hydro and Cryo members in the team. He definitely even focuses a little bit in freeze on his passives, giving him more of those benison stacks. So there's just a few different things that he can still work with and well with that I think are going to be okay for now. But I definitely think he's going to be, if he hasn't already, been power crept in that specific team with Skirk and Escoffier. I think he'll be a good free-to-play option if you don't have a character like Shenhe or Yelan for that team option, but it's definitely going to be something to keep in mind. In terms of shields in general, I'm not sure on really with absorption wise how well that's doing, but then keep in mind he is creating it over and over again. And I remember when we talked about this the other day, Rift, you brought up the idea of like how Baiju constantly brings up a new shield all the time, and Baiju's is constantly going in and out, in and out, in and out. Thankfully, on the other hand, Dahlia's is kind of staying and maybe taking a blow, and then as soon as it breaks, then it recharges itself rather than just doing it itself. Good,
Yeah.
interesting things, but I'm not sure how far this is going to bring him.
Yeah, now if you guys want some calcs, Andad did recently put out a video just either yesterday or maybe even within the 24 hours of this recording with some good, if you want like actual numbers, I think the total damage absorption of a Dahlia, assuming he has like 37,500 HP, is something like 14 or 15,000 HP that the shield can't tank. That's all of the shields, not like each individual one. That's all of it together. So it's there, you know. He can do his job, I guess, right? And the reason I'm calculating at 37,500 and why Andad also did is because if you go back to that passive where every 1,000 max HP is going to cause an increase of 0.4% up to a maximum of 15% attack speed, well, the threshold for that is 37,500 HP on your Dahlia. So that's really the only threshold you're looking at when you go to actually build him, because really there's no other stat he wants. He just wants, okay, just make sure you get the 37,500 HP, and at that point you're just looking for ER. And even then, I don't think he's going to have a lot of ER problems because he has a 60 energy cost burst. He is a Hydro character, and Hydro characters, for some, at least for me, for some reason, tend to have an easier time of getting their burst backs as opposed to like a Cryo character. I feel like if he was a Cryo character, it'd be a little bit more difficult, maybe, okay? But still, 60 energy cost, and when he only wants HP, it's going to be easy to also find the ER. It's kind of a similar build to maybe someone like Diona, where she's another character that really only wants HP and ER, nothing else. So it'll probably feel like that if you've already built your Diona. It'll be the same thing. So yeah, overall, it's just, even at like high investment, if you level his talents, you give him a lot of HP, maybe you're well over 40,000, maybe getting close to 50,000 HP or something. You know, no matter how good the shield is, it can be something for the team. Like, he's doing a role, he can be the sustain for the team, but just where we're at in Genshin right now, there's a lot of teams right now, a lot of them, that have natural sustaining coming from their best in slot supports. We see that in characters, I mean, like Escoffier, she happens to heal, and it's pretty good too. She Lonan heals, and so when you're looking at all of these, like
Layla as well could also just
yeah. And Layla's a great shielder too. So like, even if you don't have Dahlia, Layla's, I would argue, almost a better shielder. Now, the thing she doesn't have is the refreshing shield. Her shield's just really tanky. So definitely tankier than this, but it's not going to have that refreshing capability, which, you know, in different scenarios, it just depends. Could be better, could be worse. So there definitely is that to kind of go in mind with and think about. If you already have Layla, maybe you can skip Dahlia or something like that. But especially if you're thinking about hyper investing your Skirk, I don't know if I would even think about Dahlia, because you'd probably just want a character like Yelan there, Shenhe if you have her, and there are some speculations even on Shenhe getting a rerun, so there's that to think about, which we'll cover in later videos. So honestly, at the end of the day, Dahlia, even at C6 and assuming that and well built and everything, I don't know. I'm thinking no, but maybe, hey, we'll see some changes. This is subject to change because it's pretty early, and we could see maybe some buffs. Maybe they try to work something into the kit. I don't see it happening. But it has been a little bit disappointing because as a modern 4-star, one of these newer ones, we've been consistently, at least for the past year, maybe even almost 2 years, that goes all the way back to Chevrolet, we've been seeing really good 4-star kits. And it's been a while to have a kind of garbage one until now. Maybe I'm forgetting about someone because they were garbage, maybe. But you see my point. And so to get a 4-star in 5.x, almost 6.x, right? And it be kind of this underwhelming is a little bit disappointing. So maybe they change something. But still, at the end of the day, he does have the unique capability of being a Hydro Shielder. That is something we didn't have before, and we're kind of looking forward to a little bit. I just wish it was a little bit more collectively than what it is.
I think that says a lot considering Mr. Four-Star King over here really isn't even kind of hyping up the character. No, but I think that's definitely a good point. I think like we're gonna see definitely more, especially when it comes out. The beta testers and obviously what's going on in the beta right now can only test and throw around so much, and obviously there are going to be versions that are going to come out and possibly change the kits. So if there is any changes, obviously we're going to probably keep it in mind. We might, if there's a big enough change, we'll make a kind of updated video. We did that before in the past. If there's a big enough update that actually needs it, where we kind of need to change our opinion on the character, we're definitely going to do so. But for now, at least, the thoughts on Dahlia, I think I can definitely agree with you, Rift, here are just going to be a little bit less than desired. Even a character like Aoife, who was not that fantastic recently, still has almost that fun and cool factor and somehow still beat his 5-star version. And then even some of the other 4 stars like Oron eventually kind of came into himself as a very good, strong character. Even Kachina was still a pretty useful character and still is. So yeah, I agree. Ever since
Despite being Geo.
yeah, exactly. So I think ever since
She pulled it off.
Chevrolet, it's been a little. We've been kind of taking for granted how good the 4 stars have been. But maybe once again in the future, maybe there's a future character that's going to work really well with her or well with Dalia. Maybe that'll change things on how he'll do well or whatnot. But besides that, though, that's everything we've got talking about Dalia in this video. If you guys did like the video, please go ahead and like and subscribe. We do have a Discord as well if you guys want to join that as well. And thank you guys once again for watching the video. We'll see you guys in the next one.